Welcome to While We Were Distracted, the podcast where we explore topics that often get overshadowed in the rush of daily life. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. It really helps.
So you sent us a whole stack of sources about Halloween.
Yeah, quite a bit to dig through.
And our mission today really is to kind of track the absolutely wild journey of October 31st.
It really is remarkable from, ancient pagan rituals.
All the way to this massive commercial thing it is now.
Totally. It's the second biggest commercial holiday in the U.S. after Christmas?
Billions of dollars spent every year.
Over $11 billion, yeah. But if you look just beneath the surface, the candy and costumes,
Yeah.
the roots are in sacred bonfires, actual sacrifices, and my favorite bit, 18th century matchmaking.
Matchmaking. Using what?
Things like nuts, mashed potatoes. Seriously, trying to divine your future spouse.
Okay, that's amazing. So we went from that to spending $700 million on costumes for pets.
Yeah, that's quite the leap.
We absolutely need to figure out how we got here. So let's start at the beginning. Ancient Europe.
Okay, yeah. To really get Halloween, you absolutely have to start with the Celts.
Right. About 2,000 years ago, Ireland, UK, northern France.
Exactly that area. And they had this major festival called Samhain.
Samhain. And that's pronounced Samhain.
Samhain? Yeah.
Oh.
Perfect. And for the Celts, November 1st was basically their New Year.
Ah, okay. So Samhain was like their New Year's Eve party.
Kinda, yeah. It marked the official end of summer, the end of the harvest.
And the beginning of the dark, cold winter.
Which, for people totally dependent on the land, was naturally tied up with scarcity and, well, human death.
Makes sense. So the festival itself was October 31st, the night before this grim New Year.
Precisely. And this is really where the spooky part starts.
Because?
Because the core belief was that on that night, October 31st, the boundary, the veil between the living and the dead, just blurred.
Whoa. So ghosts could just wander back?
That was the idea. They could return to Earth, cause trouble, damage crops, that sort of thing.
Okay, definitely spooky, but you said there was a benefit.
There was, strategically speaking. The Celts thought this blurring of worlds made it easier for their priests, the Druids, to predict the future.
Which would be incredibly important back then.
Absolutely vital.
Yeah.
Imagine relying completely on the harvest and facing a harsh winter, knowing what's coming. That's huge. Worth maybe dealing with a few ghosts.
So what did they do on Samhain? What were the rituals?
Well, they built these enormous sacred bonfires. Huge fires.
Okay.
People would gather, burn crops, even animals, as sacrifices to their gods.
Sacrifices, wow.
And they wore costumes, often made from, animal heads and skins.
Not exactly the superhero costumes we see today.
Not quite, no. And afterwards, people would take embers from that big sacred bonfire back home to relight their own hearth fires.
Yeah.
It was meant for protection through the winter.
So it's this intense mix of community, sacrifice, prophecy, and protection, all wrapped up in one night.
Pretty much sums it up. But then, things change. History marches on.
Right. Enter the Romans, around 43 A.D.
Yeah, the Roman Empire conquered most of the Celtic lands. And the Romans were masters of integration.
They didn't just stamp out local traditions.
Not usually, no. They tended to blend them. So with Samhain, they kind of folded into their own festivals.
Okay, what were they?
One was called Feralia. It was a day in late October when Romans traditionally commemorated the dead.
Makes sense. Similar theme.
Yeah.
And the second?
This one's fun. It honored Pomona. She was the Roman goddess of fruit and trees.
Fruit and trees. How does that connect?
Well, Pomona's symbol is the apple.
No way. You're saying that's why we bob for apples.
That's the widely accepted theory, yeah. The Roman goddess Pomona, blended into a Celtic death festival, gives us a party game 2,000 years later.
That is genuinely unbelievable. The layers of history in just dunking your head in water.
And that kind of blending, that layering, it just kept happening, especially as Christianity spread into those Celtic areas.
Right. The church arrives and sees these popular, deeply rooted pagan festivals.
Exactly. And they face a choice. Try to eradicate them, which is hard, or co-opt them.
Adapt and absorb. Yeah. Smart strategy.
It really was. So Pope Boniface IV, back in 609 A.D., he established All Martyrs' Day. But it was originally on May 13th.
Okay, so not overlapping yet.
Not yet. The really key move came later with Pope Gregory III. He expanded the festival to include all saints, not just martyrs. And this is crucial. He moved the observance date to November 1st.
Right on top of Samhain?
Directly. It's pretty clearly an attempt to replace or absorb the older pagan festival with a church-sanctioned one.
Makes perfect sense. Did they add anything else?
They did. Around the year 1000 AD, the church added another related holiday, All Souls Day on November 2nd,
All Souls Day.
specifically to honor all the dead, not just saints.
Yeah.
Again, you see the theme echoing Samhain, but now framed within Christian belief. It felt like a direct replacement effort by the church.
Okay, so the dates are aligned, the themes are sort of mirrored. How did the name change happen?
Right, the terminology. So the Feast for All Saints' Day, November 1st, was also known back then as All Hallows. Hallow meaning saint or holy person.
All Hallows.
Or sometimes All Hallowmas. So logically, the night before All Hallows
Which was October 31st, the traditional night of Samhain.
became known as All Hallows Eve.
All Hallows Eve, wow.
Then you can just hear how that naturally shortens over time, right?
Yeah.
All Hallows Eve, Hallows Eve.
Halloween.
Halloween is literally just the evening before All Saints' Day.
Okay, so fast forward quite a bit. Centuries later, the tradition, now called Halloween, crosses the Atlantic with European colonists. But it didn't land the same everywhere, right? Especially not in New England.
Not at all. In colonial New England, with its very rigid Protestant, Puritan beliefs, Halloween was extremely limited. They were deeply suspicious of anything that smacked of paganism or, Catholic saints' days.
Too much ritual, too much fun, maybe.
Something like that, yeah. But it found a bit more purchase further south.
Right.
Maryland, the southern colonies. It was more common there.
Okay. And over time, did it start to change in America? Mix with other things?
Definitely. As different European traditions mingled, and eventually as they encountered and sometimes mixed with customs from American Indian cultures, a sort of distinct American version started to emerge.
What did that look like? Still spooky ghosts.
Not so much initially. These early American celebrations were often called play parties.
Play parties!
Yeah, mostly centered around celebrating the harvest. It was very community-focused.
So like get-togethers.
Big time. Neighbors would gather, share stories of the dead, sometimes tell fortunes. There's that link back to Samhain's prediction theme again. Dance, sing, maybe pull a few lighthearted pranks. It was social, communal.
Sounds quite pleasant, actually. But still not quite the Halloween we know. When did it become like a national thing?
The big turning point, according to the sources, was really the second half of the 19th century.
What happened then?
Immigration. Massive waves of new immigrants arriving in America.
And specifically?
Specifically the Irish. Millions of Irish immigrants came over, especially fleeing the potato famine in the 1840s and 50s.
And they brought their Halloween traditions with them.
They absolutely did. They brought their well-established customs, which were direct descendants of that Samhain All Hallows Eve mix. And that huge influx really helped catapult Halloween from being just a regional custom
into a truly national celebration. Okay, so by the late 1800s, Halloween is becoming popular across America thanks to immigration. But it also started getting a bit rowdy.
It did, yeah. The pranking element, maybe some of the spookier aspects, started getting out of hand in some places. Vandalism became a real issue.
So people tried to tone it down.
Exactly. There was this push, kind of a civic effort, to shift Halloween away from mischief and perceived grotesqueness.
How'd they do that?
Well, newspapers at the time actually encouraged parents to remove anything too frightening. The idea was to make it more about community gatherings, neighborly get-togethers.
So less about scaring people, more about parties.
Right. By the turn of the 20th century, the common way to celebrate was shifting towards parties focused on games, seasonal food like apples and nuts, and festive costumes, but often not scary ones.
Okay, so community parties, games. Where does trick-or-treating come from? How do we get from bobbing for apples in someone's living room to kids demanding candy at the door?
Well, for that, we need to trace the treat part back even further. Back to England and Europe, actually.
Okay.
It seems connected to All Souls Day traditions. There was a practice called going a-souling.
Souling?
Yeah. Poor citizens, often children, would go door to door begging for food, and wealthier families would give them these little pastries called soul cakes.
Soul cakes? In exchange for what?
In exchange for a promise to pray for the souls of the family's dead relatives.
Wow. So the treat wasn't just a handout, it was part of a deal. A spiritual transaction, almost.
Kind of, yeah. Pray for our dead, get a cake. Later, this practice evolved, and kids might receive ale or food or money.
Okay, so that's maybe the ancestor of the treat. But what about the trick part and the modern American version?
Right. The actual practice of trick-or-treating as we know it. It was really revived, or perhaps reinvented, in America much later, between the 1920s and the 1950s.
Why then?
Because vandalism had become a huge problem again around Halloween in many towns. Pranks got destructive.
Wait, you're saying trick-or-treating, the thing my kids do every year?
Yeah.
It was basically invented to stop vandalism.
That seems to be a major factor, yeah. It was promoted as a way for the whole community to share in the holiday in an organized, inexpensive way.
And the key part.
The key part was that families could effectively prevent tricks, prevent having their windows soaked, or worse, by providing a small, inexpensive treat. Give the kids candy, they move on.
That completely flips the script. It wasn't kids demanding treats or else, it was communities channeling youthful energy by offering treats instead of getting tricks.
It looks that way. A kind of community-level behavioral management strategy almost.
Wild. And clearly it worked.
It worked incredibly well, especially once the baby boom generation hit after World War II.
Suddenly millions more kids.
Exactly. So by the 1950s, Halloween parties started moving out of town centers and more into schools and private homes, perfectly set up for this newly established ritual of trick-or-treating.
And from there, boom, commercialization.
Liftoff. Which brings us back to those staggering numbers today. Over $11 billion spent annually.
And that stat you mentioned earlier, a quarter of all candy sold all year in the U.S.
1/4, just for this one holiday. It's mind-boggling.
And the $700 million on pet costumes in 2024, it just shows how completely secular and, frankly, how consumer-driven it's become.
From sacrificing animals at bonfires to dressing chihuahuas as hot dogs. It really is quite the evolution.
Let's rewind a little bit back to the costumes. You mentioned those early Celtic ones, the animal skins and heads.
Right. Their original purpose wasn't really about playing a character like we do now.
What was it then?
It was more about survival, blending in
Blending in
with the spirits. Remember, they believed ghosts were roaming around on Samhain night.
Ah, so if you look like a spirit yourself.
Maybe they'd mistake you for one of them and leave you alone. It was passive defense. Same reason people would leave bowls of food outside their doors.
To appease the spirits, keep them happy, keep them outside.
Exactly. Don't come in, here's some food. It was all about navigating that dangerous night.
But what's fascinating is how that focus shifted over time. We think of early Halloween as being all about death and ghosts. But you mentioned matchmaking.
Oh, absolutely. For a significant period, especially in the 18th and 19th centuries in parts of Britain and Ireland, Halloween rituals were heavily focused on divination, particularly about marriage.
Finding a future spouse on Halloween.
Yes, it was a big night for love predictions. Folk magic, really.
Give me an example. You mentioned mashed potatoes.
Okay, yeah. In 18th century Ireland, apparently matchmaking cooks would sometimes hide a ring inside the mashed potatoes served on Halloween night.
And whoever found the ring
Was believed to be the next one to find true love and marry.
That's brilliant. A culinary lottery for love. What else?
In Scotland, there was a tradition involving hazelnuts. A young woman would name a couple of nuts after different suitors she was considering. Then she'd toss them into the fireplace. How the nuts reacted supposedly predicted her future husband.
How so? Like, which one burned fastest?
Sometimes. Or sometimes the one that burned quietly to ash was the steady future husband, while the one that popped or exploded,
Yeah.
maybe not such a good match.
Fiery personalities, maybe. Okay, what else?
There were loads of these, like eating a specific concoction of walnuts, hazelnuts, and nutmeg before bed on Halloween, hoping to dream of your future spouse.
Dream divination.
Or peeling an apple in one long strip and tossing the peel over your shoulder. The shape it landed in was supposed to form the initial of your future husband.
Wow. That is such a different vibe from appeasing angry ghosts. It's all about predicting your personal domestic future.
It really is. But, if you think about it, both are about trying to gain some knowledge, some control over an uncertain future.
Yeah, that's a good point. Whether it's surviving the winter or finding a partner, it's about reducing anxiety through prediction.
And that desire still lingers today, maybe in our superstitions.
Like avoiding black cats. Where does that come from?
That one seems to trace back to the Middle Ages. There was a widespread belief that witches could transform themselves into black cats to move around undetected.
So bad luck by association with witchcraft. Makes
Yeah.
sense. What about walking under ladders? Is that just common sense?
Probably mostly common sense. But there are older theories, too. Some link it back to the ancient Egyptians, who viewed triangles as sacred shapes,
Yeah.
and a ladder against the wall forms a triangle you shouldn't violate.
Or maybe just don't want something dropped on your head.
Could just be that, yeah. Hashtag tag outro. So when you look back, it's really been an incredible journey for October 31st.
Absolutely stunning. We went from, ancient Celtic rituals for the dead and predicting winter?
Through Roman blending, Then Christian holidays taking over the date,
Then crossing the Atlantic, especially with Irish immigrants,
becoming this sort of anti-vandalism program with trick-or-treating.
and landing finally as this massive multi-billion-dollar consumer holiday we know today.
It just shows how traditions adapt, how they morph based on cultural needs and, well, anxieties.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thread. The earliest Celts used Samhain to try and predict and maybe control a life or death winter.
Right. High-stakes prediction.
And then those 18th century women used Halloween rituals to try and predict and maybe control their domestic future through marriage.
Yeah, still trying to manage uncertainty, just a different kind.
So here's something for you to mull over as maybe carve a pumpkin or hand out candy this year. What does our modern Halloween focus tell us? All the scary movies, the incredibly elaborate costumes, everything from like Sputnik back in the 50s to slasher movie villains in the 80s, and now maybe celebrity lookalikes or political figures.
Yeah, what do those choices reflect?
What do our modern rituals, our costumes, our spending, even that $700 million on pet costumes, tell us about what we currently fear? Or maybe what we secretly aspire to or just find fascinating in our own uncertain times?
That's a great question to end on.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for the next episode on While We Were Distracted.